If you have been watching the news recently, you have probably heard of the recent events that happened in Afghanistan. Personally, I wondered why the Taliban was so bad and why people were so desperate to leave the country. Hi, my name is Eddie Devine. I'm a ninth grader at Cathedral Catholic High School. I'm creating a podcast for my English 1 class. My class read Malala Yousafzai's autobiography, I Am Malala. Over the last couple months, we have annotated and recorded themes throughout the story. Overall, I enjoyed the book. I found it so interesting how different parts of the world can be. In Southern California, we live in sort of a haven where we don't see how much of the world operates. Sometimes it's easy to think that other countries work just like ours. Malala Yousafzai is a women's rights activist. She was born and raised in Mingora, Pakistan. Most of Pakistan is controlled by the Taliban, an Islamic extremist group. The Taliban believes women should not have the same rights as men, and therefore women should be treated unfairly. One of the main ideas the Taliban promotes is that women should not be given an education. Malala grew up in an area where the Taliban did not have as much influence over the people compared to other areas. She was therefore able to receive an education at an all-girls school. Malala's family was forward-thinking and did not believe in most of the sexist culture in the surrounding area. One day in 2013, Malala was riding the bus to school as usual. One man stopped the bus and stalled it by talking to the driver, while another man hopped into the bus. Many of the girls believed he was a reporter or journalist going to interview them. This is an excerpt from Malala's autobiography. "Who is Malala?" he demanded. No one said anything, but several girls looked at me. I was the only girl with my face not covered. That's when he lifted the black pistol. I later learned it was a Colt 45. Some of the girls screamed. Monica tells me I squeezed her hand. On that day, Malala was shot by the Taliban for standing up for women's rights. The bullet went through her head and into her shoulder. The bullet grazed her eye and skull and shattered her eardrum and broke her jaw. She miraculously survived because of the way the bullet entered her head. She was immediately hospitalized and was barely saved by doctors. Parts of her skull even went into her brain. This is what Malala is famous for, the girl who survived being shot by the Taliban. This is widely known as Malala's origin story and how she became even more involved in women's rights activism. After recovering from her wounds, Malala went on to found the Malala Fund, an international non-profit organization advocating for women's rights around the world. She even went on to give a speech at the United Nations headquarters in New York. In that speech, she urged world leaders to change their policies on issues involving women's rights. Malala risked her life every day, and still does, to bring to light the atrocities committed by the Taliban and inspire young women around the world to stand up for their freedom and be brave in the face of tyranny. One of my favorite quotes from the book that represents this is when Malala says, "If one man, Falaza, can destroy everything, why can't one girl change it?" This quote clearly demonstrates Malala's main purpose in telling the story, to inspire young women, to inspire girls around the world to challenge oppressive men and seek an education, to challenge women to have bravery when going against the Taliban, and finally to inspire young women to make a difference in the world. Malala says in this quote that she, just one girl, made an impact on the world and other girls can follow in her footsteps. Malala's story is more important now than ever because of the recent Taliban takeover in Afghanistan. Before, the United States military occupied Afghanistan and prevented the Taliban from taking over. On August 30th, 2021, we pulled out our last troops from the area. Immediately, the Taliban took control of the country and resumed their tyrannical rule. According to CBS News, women have been denied the right to work, a secondary education, and there are also reports of widespread harassment by the Taliban for women not being accompanied by a male family member or for not wearing clothing deemed modest. Women who do not obey these rules are beaten and even killed. Women are rushed to the stores to buy burqas, special cloth that covers their entire body, including their face, so they would not be hurt for showing their skin in public. Many women began to starve in their homes because they did not have a male family member to escort them. Girls' schools and women's sports were also shut down by the Taliban. At the time, when there seemed to be no hope, women's rights activists stood up and protested. According to CBS News, they have reopened at least some girls' schools in about 5 provinces, and that seems to be the result of negotiations and pressure from the community. Young women are using all their courage to risk their lives just like Malala did. They're standing up for their human rights and fighting back against the Taliban's tyrannical rule. Malala once said, "If one man, Fazlala, can destroy everything, why can't one girl change it?" And these women are taking that to heart and fighting back with everything they have. Malala was extremely brave in what she did. She challenged the Taliban and fought for her rights, and for the rights of anyone affected by the oppressive rules of the Taliban. She spoke up about the horrific things done by the Taliban, knowing full well she could be attacked at any time. After being shot, instead of giving the Taliban what they wanted and giving up her fight, she used that as motivation to move her forward. Not only is Malala Yousafzai an amazing role model for women around the world, but she is an incredible role model for anyone, whether you're being oppressed by a tyrannical government or a person. Be brave and fight for what is right.